Theory and Praxis by Melzai and NanoOrg. Yeah, nice you're here. All creatures welcome. This is the motto with the Chaos Communication Club. And we actually want to give those our basic ideas to newcomers, and how can we, and one of the questions the Hexen and the two-word group asked themselves, and that's how they created the welcome patterns. And what's behind that, Melzai and Nanook will tell you. And Melzai is part of the Hexen group and part of Chaos Hamburg. And NanoOrg is from Tuat. And please welcome our speakers. Moin, as we say. Oh, we still need some picture. It's his laptop. Mine doesn't like the display port. Okay, so what's... okay. Okay, this is quite a complex kind of peoples who are here. So we have an introduction slide. So we want to introduce Tuat and Hexen, and so you know why we are here together tonight. Hexen are a decentralized chaos meetup, which was founded 1989. We have 30-year celebration this year. Maybe you heard the choir yesterday. During the last years, we made ourselves known by beautiful postcards and stamps to introduce women in computer science through podcasts and stamps. And we have a nice fireplace, which already went to camp. And now there's also a library with feminist books, and everyone is welcome. And we're 300 people at the moment, and we're growing. And we are bigger than the CCH, the Hamburg Computer Club. And now you have to introduce Chaos Siegen. I have a slide for that. Okay, so we leave it with that. So then we have the two-word group, education. The CCC thought about, like a few years ago, it started to think about how we can find together to meet for our common goals and do something together. And that's why we founded Two-Word Group, which met the first time 2018. And this education group was, by chance, had 4 Hexen, and they asked themselves, what kind of education do we have inside chaos? So are we only talking about hacker ethics, art and communication, or something other, some other values? Does everyone here have the same values? So we have some... do we all have the same access to the communication channels, to the external ones and the internal ones? Are they dependent on background or gender or age or something else? So does everyone have access to the same channels? And then we looked at the way how groups are organized. So we have to do go a bit further. So here you can see there's a tendency at the moment. Lalou has defined this tendency. So one organization normally is not just one thing of those, one group of those 5, but probably a mixture of those 5. But you can say that there's some organizations that are really power-oriented, like, for example, mafia. So who has the most power has the most rights and is right. And then there's traditional hierarchy. where you have ranks, and then you do something, then you go up the ranks, like military or church. There's then organizations which are success-oriented, like most companies nowadays. So if we have some goal, and so who manages in a successful goes up in a hierarchy. And then there is consensus-orientated organization. So families, good functioning families, are communicating on one eye level and all sit around one table and try to find one common ground. And I mean, the reality is sometimes different, but yeah. And the final one after Lalue, it's the one we should go for, and that's like the evolutionary organization, which has networks of hierarchies. So some people decide one thing, others other things, and then one communicates together. And so that in those organisms there should also be taking care of each other and hearing everyone, introverted people, and yeah. But there can also be phases. Groups are in at one point or another. So here we have a bit strange image from Tuckman's cycle. So we have the forming phase where people found a group, and then they have conflicts, and there's cliques, and might be hidden conflicts. That's the storming phase, and then you have those conflicts breaking, and you have to find strategies to find together again, and that's the norming phase where you find each other and find your common goal, and then you have the performing phase, and you can reach a lot, and then and hopefully you only get to the adjoining phase when the group dispatches, when the goal is reached, but sometimes it happens when you cannot see each other anymore because you have so many conflicts. But every time a new member comes, you kind of starts again, the group starts again with the forming phase a bit. Or not every time, but when some people come, might be the new cliques, and then there might be a new storming phase, or old conflicts come back forward, and or people don't like that new person, so then you might go into the storming phase again. So on the one hand, you can have those different groups of kinds of groups, or these different phases of groups. So sometimes it might be perfect, everyone is in a performing phase, everyone has the same goal, and yeah. So, but those are the theories, and now we're talking about the CCC, and some people looked at all the aspects of CCC and asked themselves, where are we? And so they came to the conclusion that all those different forms of organizations are represented in CCC. And it's kind of quite gained some tension. So some people are like, oh yeah, it's my family, the chaos, and CCC as a family. So the consensus-oriented organization is like the Orga, the Congress Orga group. So there might be in the local groups, there might be also this evolutionary. But we also have CCC as a family, and might be if you don't adhere to rights, to introduction rights, then you might not actually get access to the CCC. And we also have the tradition, like the historic formula who makes is right. And then we also have like the thing, you can do anything, but please say before. So then people could actually say something, and then we can we come and but sometimes we don't say you don't have to ask always prior because that makes it very much bureaucracy and takes time, and but it's actually nice if things can be done first and just be done and things get done. But sometimes as a newbie it's really difficult because you don't know in which situation do I have to do what and which rules are relevant for me, and then there's sometimes traditional hierarchies like CERT, but in an emergency you actually want just something happening, or like, but also you want people to follow the rules. So, but then there's also like really unofficial rules, like which hoodies do people have, which stickers do people have, and then someone has like a really old CCC hoodie, and everyone follows this person because they obviously are kind of like the kind of more advanced, more longer members. But that doesn't have to be wrong, but it kind of can create difficulties. For example, there's like, we all want chunk and we all want it to be distributed fast, and so that's like kind of successful or success oriented, but we also want everything to go smoothly. Yeah, so there's so many different things going on. So when we first talked about what the two-word group could do was we wanted to provide help how to integrate newbies more smoothly into alphas, and to give people patterns and handouts how to communicate well and how to communicate these rules well. And all these tension fields make the CCC function very well, but we actually wanted to communicate those better and make them more transparent. And we all have the same goals, like politics and technique and technique in general, and we want to keep those goals in mind, because then we might have the question, oh yeah, but the CCC is not political. So yeah, we want actually to give newbies nice first experiences and nice experience afterwards. So we have a nice person at our group who made these nice graphics. So here for the first visit, so there's the open door pattern first. So give people the information that your door is open. So we had talks in Chaos Siegen, and that's what will be taught later. But there's so many media about CCC and in FSZ and Spiegel and all these people to hear about CCC, they don't feel comfortable just entering those clubs. They have to know first that our door is open to actually feel comfortable to come in. And to communicate that is important, and you have to learn that. So when the person came through the door, it might be important to ask the person, what's your name? What would you like to be called? Really professional is the question for pronouns, because the gender is firstly maybe not relevant because we have the same goals, but might be nice, and you can do that, yes. And then one of the classics is the greeting pattern, and then a new person comes in and there's like several people in a black hoodie with their laptops, and they look really busy, and it's like black wall. And maybe it might be useful. Maybe someone you pointed out before, and that person puts away the laptop and talks with that person. And maybe I just do that with a few sentences, and then another person has to go, kind of, and everyone can hide behind their notebooks at one point or another, but maybe everyone can talk to a new person as well. Or maybe you can figure it out talking to each other. So a new person doesn't actually have that wall of black persons with notebooks. And I know from a person who has been for 2 years going to a space and hasn't been talked to once. So it's important to talk about that and reflect about that. So there's also the response box, so kind of, and a guided tour, kind of like what's going on, where's what do we have here. Maybe you have your own rooms, like what actually is the CCC, what's Congress, what other chaos events do we have, give people information, and so they can actually get into CCC. Also important, sometimes you have to say stop. Sometimes you have people who have conspiracy theories, and maybe such people you can't help. You cannot kind of talk them out of those conspiracies. Maybe you can talk about something else, but sometimes it doesn't really help. Then sometimes you have to. You also can't tell these people to leave if it's just not working at all. When people have like really strong conspiracy theories in their head, we think you actually can say stop if it's not working. The same thing when people come with like a profit interest. You see the seahorse that you get when, like the seahorse you can get when you learn swimming, at least in Germany. So that's something like you can teach the person the skills to actually do what they want to do, but you don't have to do it for them if they actually want to just have you build something to sell. There's also the sewing pattern, which is quite difficult to teach people. It's important that we all have both technique and politics. We have digitalization with context. Digitalization without context is difficult. It's not possible. You have to talk about both to people. And if people are totally into hardware, it's totally okay. Everyone can have their strong point, but you have to talk about both things. And I think you can also teach people that in the first visit. Okay, so now you have done it. New person is here. They might have come in more often. So now it might be the second phase. But maybe there's something wrong. We have here the leaky sink. So then there's the next introduction. So who has the server passwords? How do you get onto the intern mailing list? Is there maybe an ISC channel? How do our decision making process work? So that's the next step of integrating pattern. So for example, where's your membership application? So for example, in Hamburg, we have that online, the membership application. So next point, they have been here for several times, but they don't know how to take part. They don't feel comfortable coming to group meetings or to give their opinion or to change things. I mean, of course, you like it when they ask prior to rebuilding everything, but if they don't feel comfortable to do anything, to touch anything, it's not their room. So you have to invite the people to actually do things and take part and maybe teach them the rules how to do that.
So now we're in the last round of the pattern, which is like the most challenging thing. So one part is to actually take feedback from the people who came a few times. Getting feedback isn't always the nicest thing to do, because you could get critics that you don't actually like, but you can manage that, you can meditate that, and maybe critics are even constructive. They can say, well, there are little things that could get better and I even can help you. And then you have the new person who actually has found something to do in the space. And maybe there are people who already know about technology or politics and have foundations, and then you can integrate them and work together, and that would be super. Then we have the basic stop pattern. Some things are bad, and then maybe you have to say no or stop. This has to be, and this also is okay. In this pattern also belongs the galactic pattern. The basic understanding of the CCC is that we are a galactic society, and what that means is that we don't discriminate, we're not racist.